Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, CEO and founder of Harvard Grace Capital, Stewart Heath. And we are really blessed today to have Angie Lawless join us. It's taken us a couple of times to get her here. We're both very busy people. I'll take all the blame for that. Angie, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Stuart. I really appreciate you having me on.
So, interested in digging into what it is that you do, and you're an attorney, you're a real estate service provider, if that's the way to say that. I mean, you have a title company. I'm not trying to. It's which is probably pretty good business in our little neck of the woods here in Middle Tennessee. But can you tell us about a time where that you would call a game-changing moment in your life that maybe you wanted to be a dancer, but then something happened and you decided to go to law school, and now you're here where you are now?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, so I'm from a small town in Kentucky, and my mom always said, law school or med school. And so that was a pretty easy choice for me because I don't do blood. So I ended up in law school. And then I think from there,
Not just any law school, though. You went to Vanderbilt. So
yes, yeah, I was fortunate, and that's how I actually ended up in Nashville. And I've been here ever since. It's a wonderful city, and anyone listening should just come check it out. And then from there, I think what was really interesting is that I don't have any entrepreneurs in my family. And if you ask me today what I am, that's what I am. I'm a risk taker. I'm an entrepreneur, and I like getting things started and helping other entrepreneurs. And so I think that the key moment was there was this guy who was my mentor at a large law firm in town. I was at Bass, Berry & Sims doing M&A work and mergers and acquisitions. And I had a mentor who came in. He was my boss, I guess the partner on a project, and said that, he needed me to stay late and miss a dinner that I had planned with my friend. And in that moment, it hit me that I really loved the people that I was working with, just smart, interesting people, but I needed control of my life. And in that moment, I remember now looking back on it, I was, I think, 27 years old, and I just set a date that I was leaving, and, I was leaving then. And that was just a pivotal moment. And looking back, I think how fortunate that I did it that early, because I don't know if I would have done it, fast forward today. I don't know if I would have still had the guts to be like, yeah, it's cool. I know I'm jumping to zero, but work it out.
yeah. I agree with you. I had a similar experience. I think I was the grand age of 25 when I figured I'd learned all that I could learn as an accountant, and I left a pretty good career at Price Waterhouse at the time, and so I'm just going to go do this myself. And looking back, I wish I had waited till I was 30, because as it turns out, I didn't know everything. But sometimes it's better just to go on guts and than wait till you're ready. But we hear that as a similar take from a lot of entrepreneurs we've had on here. Either they get fired, or they just didn't like the way things were going. As well, I can do this better on my own.
Right, and probably lots of times they were actually quitting when they got fired. They didn't know they were quitting, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but if I read your LinkedIn profile correctly, you had a law practice, and then later came into doing title work as well. How did that come about?
Yes, so actually we started the title company, and then we realized that we needed a law firm to go along with it because we were doing real estate title closings, continue to do those. But there were some times where the liability was too big, or we were doing a little bit more legal work than we felt like it was a different beast. And so now we have the law firm, and then we have the title company. And then about 4 years ago, we started an independent insurance agency as well. And so that's kind of the business side of things.
Okay. I misread that completely then. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's
The insurance
confusing.
advisory. Okay. So, all right. Got you. So,
Yeah.
is that all kind of commercial insurance?
It's all kinds, right? It's, from your run-of-the-mill property, casualty insurance, personal, to any kind of commercial.
Okay. Got it. Well,
What's interesting,
yeah.
go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say, what's interesting is that in those models, something that I tell people I want to teach my children, 2 words, and that is recurring revenue. And we don't have that on the title side, but you get that on the insurance side. So when we started thinking about that, I have two business partners, and when we started thinking about that, it was a bit of a retirement play of, wait, what happens down the line when we stop the treadmill we're on? It's like, oh yeah, the money stops too.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a cool.
No, you're supposed to sell it to Stewart Title or First American or somebody like that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I mean,
But a diversification of sorts.
It is. You're exactly right, which is how I've structured our real estate private equity firm. It's all about recurring revenue. We don't do any of the exciting things like developments but I was just at a conference this week and telling people that our tagline is boring is beautiful, because you don't ever really want to see your investment on the news.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Cash flow can be boring, but not really, not when it hits the bank account. So I like that recurring revenue.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So similar question, but I guess on the darker side, is there a bump in the road that you've hit along your career that you can share with it? Maybe it changed your direction. Maybe it was just something that you had to persevere. Anybody who's been in business for really any significant period of time, maybe there's lots of bumps, but pick one and tell us about how you got through that.
Yeah, I was going to say I've had so many bumps along the way, because they're learning curves, right? And you think you can study prior businesses and you can learn the lessons before you make the mistakes yourself. I think one mistake, and I'm not sure it's a mistake, but it strikes me as, in the beginning, it was just me and I had a business partner, and I have a decent level of anxiety, which I credit for a lot of my success, and also can present, particularly back then, was difficult, because what would happen is, as you know, when you have a startup, you're doing all the jobs in the business. Some of them are suited to your personality, some of them aren't. And you're just doing it. You don't really even realize, hey, I'm not that much of a detail person, because you have to be in those moments. It's like do or die, right?
Yeah. Somehow you become one for that moment. Yeah.
You become one. And then you kind of figure out, as you get to slowly pull yourself out, what you actually are. And I think that for me, what was really challenging was my anxiety would get so high in these really stressful moments where I'm trying to learn, figure out the stakes are high, I don't have any money. My business partner says, I remember crying a lot. My business partner says that we lived off of his home equity line, that he would just like pull off of it. I don't remember like how we had money to live, but it sounds like that's probably right. And I would get really stressed to the point where I felt like I was just going to explode, right? There was so much that I needed to get done. And I just remember I would I would be in such a bad mood because of that. And I think that was a trying time for my business partner, who is the exact opposite, who's a very even kill kind of guy, which if you're a stress case and somebody in business is very even kill, can really stress you out a lot more, right? Because you're like, what, why aren't you doing something? Get up, do something, just
Right.
what?
Yeah.
And I think that I had a lot of sort of get mad, feel guilty, get mad, feel guilty. And then as I got maybe early 30s, it was becoming too much. And so I went and got some anti-anxiety medicine. And now I don't have that at all. And I say that was a challenge because I think what that was doing to my business was it was causing me to hang on too tightly, to try to micromanage everything, control everything. And turns out I don't need to control everything. I don't have to do every single thing. And then I had to do a lot more than I, would have to do right this moment. But even then, there were lots of things that would have been okay. It would have been better for me to chill out and just, work through solutions with my business partner. We got through it. It's a good thing we were young and did not have other stressors, I think, on our plate. And so now that part is completely gone away, and I'm very thankful. It's kind of a personal journey as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I wish, and I have, when I, in my CPA practice days, I would always advise people that come to me starting a business is that you need to read the E-Myth. And
Yes.
it's an old book, and it's, of course, it's been spun off to every industry imaginable. It's like, the sum of it is, just because you're a plumber doesn't mean you know how to run a plumbing company.
Right.
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 And we all experience it. Most of us get on the other side of it. But if we went into it with the mindset of building systems and hiring employees and stuff like that, we would avoid all that.
Yes.
At least that kind of delegation stress. I saw your post about scaling the business, and you're just spot on. I mean, I'm still struggling with it today.
It's very hard in a services business to turn that into something that is truly scalable. I mean, I know we talk about scalable as in growing, but if you're just growing and kind of adding the same amount of, revenue per person, then that's not really scaling. To scale, you need to be able to develop a bunch of efficiencies along the way. And that can be really hard to do in a services business, but you certainly can't do it hanging on to every little thing.
Yeah, I think especially in your business and in my business, where we're dealing with money and other people's money. I mean, it takes me a lot to trust an employee to do that. And I used to have a college professor who says, well, if I can think of it, somebody's doing it. So, so you can imagine any kind of ways that people might, and honest mistakes happen. And those are bad enough. I mean,
That's right.
I refinanced a house one time, went on vacation the next day, came back to my original mortgage company saying, hey, are you going to make your payment? I'm like,
Oh,
and it was honest. And I called the attorney, and he, you hear clicking on the keyboard, and they'd never paid it off.
just not got sent out. Yeah.
They just never sent it. I mean, there was no malfeasance or anything, but it's a mistake,
Right. And those things are challenging. And I think what I've learned through the years is that I want to set aside fraud, because fraud has become such a dangerous beast in our industry, particularly in Nashville, where housing prices are going up. You're usually not talking about small wires. And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to combat. But setting that aside, most problems can be fixed. There are some that are very, very difficult to fix, but most things that people mess up, you can get them fixed, and it's okay. So I tell people, if you made a mistake, I want to see how you act after, right? If you made the mistake and you show me that you care about the company in a way that hits me, it's really bothering you and you're taking proactive steps to remedy it, we're going to be all good. We'll deal with the loss. We'll figure it out. If you are flippant about it and you don't seem to care, then we've got an issue. But, mistakes happen.
Yeah.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, we're human.
Yeah.
That sort of swerves into my next one. How many people you got on your team now?
I think in the title side, we're at 35, give or take.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. So what's a bigger challenge for you, staying, being a manager or being an attorney, if I can say it that way?
Both.
You're managing a big team of people, and that brings into all kinds of different issues. So, is it more challenging for you to learn and how to manage people, or is it?
So I'm fairly sure not great at managing people. I have a wonderful COO who now does that part of the job. She oversees operations and she does a lot of the HR stuff in connection with our HR team. But that was really difficult for me, right? Because my personality is, if someone sits down to interview, I like them. It's like, oh, you're great. Like, and I find out everything about their life, but I won't ask the hard questions, right? The business stuff, I'm not great about that because I'm just interested in the human part of the experience. And then on the flip side, I am terrible at firing people. The last one I did, I ended up hiring them back, and everybody in the company or my executive team was so upset that they were like, "You're never firing anyone again. You were terrible at this." And that is one of those things that it's just not I'm not, and I wasn't very happy when I was managing all of the operations. And I'll tell you, the attorney side, I can give advice when clients call, and I definitely don't mind to do that. It's not my favorite either because I don't think I'm wired like an attorney. I'm the visionary on our executive team. I have 100 ideas a day and, one good one a week, maybe. And I am a relationship person. And so, our company has to use me in that way to get the most out of me. So that's kind of where I am right now. And I'm having fun and I'm connecting in ways like I recently started doing a podcast with our city leaders. A lot of it is political. And that has been a great way where I feel like I'm connecting with the city. It's not directly related to business. For me, it's about trying to give something back from a city who has given me so much. But in return, what happens is that these relationships in the community become quite valuable for whether it's business related or whether it's just being able to ask questions that I need the answers to. So I think that's what's been enjoyable about the last, few years of my career.
And how do you stay current? What do you do to make sure you're on top of your game?
Good question. In this business, I'm a relationship person. So I find myself talking to a lot of other title company owners, both here, and then I have a network that's across the country, and we'll meet up at a conference here or there. Recently, I was at a conference and saw, it was a more of a multifamily conference, but I met up with a title company out of Texas, and he
Best ever? Is that where you went?
what was it?
Best ever? Is that the conference you went to?
No, I'm trying to think of the exact name of it. It's not coming to me right now, but it was, but I should check that one out. This one was, he was going out there because he had a lot of commercial clients that were doing it. And I'd gone out there trying to learn a little bit more, network, and make some connections in that world. And it just worked out, and so while I'm sitting out there talking to him, getting to know about his practice more, he's someone that I've known for a while, then it becomes, well, how could we maybe strategize and work together at this conference to get some deals? And so that's been really fun. And I would say that's the main way. We also do have associations here that we are part of. I hope to go next week up to the American Land Title Association to their day on the Hill in DC, and worked on a bill in the state of Tennessee that I'm still working on. So I like to do a lot of things like that. And so I think I'm going to get involved with their legislative at the Tennessee, the Tennessee Land Title Association, get involved there on the legislative side of things. So those are the things that I'm doing currently to keep up with this market and, other markets that usually are a little ahead of us.
What is your industry interested in trying to get through the Tennessee legislature?
Well, it's interesting. I think that there are lots of things. This last one is it's kind of a title company specific thing, and it has to do with some practices that are just between title companies in the Middle Tennessee area. I won't totally bother you with it. Some people are on board, some people are not on board, but a recent one that I just heard a friend of mine talk about that I thought was really interesting is I think it's in Wisconsin. They have a law that says that lenders have to get a payoff. Once I make a request for a payoff, you're refinancing your home, I need a payoff statement, that they have to deliver that within a certain amount of time. And that can be problematic because you don't want to order it too early, because if you do, then maybe a payment gets made in between, and then we're charging the client too much and they have to get it refunded. And you also don't want to do it too late, because sometimes you run across these lenders who require like 10 days to get it to you, which just isn't a good consumer practice. So
in this day and age, that seems ridiculous.
It does, right? And so we're taking a look at that law right now to see if that's something that would make sense in Tennessee. I don't know if it will go anywhere or not, but I think finding ways to make our industry better, and we have to look at ways to make our industry safer every way that we can, because that is the biggest threat to in this arena for consumers. The fraud is the biggest threat. And for anyone listening, I just feel like I should say, do not ever wire funds anywhere without Googling or chat GPTing. Don't ever wire funds to anywhere that you have not Googled or chat GPT'd a phone number to confirm them through that. Don't get an email that says wire here and then call the number on the email. Don't do that. Not good.
That would seem to be obvious. I mean, that stuff's been going on for 15 years. Yeah. I mean, I had dinner with this guy I used to work with just 2 days ago, and we were laughing back in 2013, and I was at this company, and we were broke, and everybody knew it was broke, and I got an email supposedly from my boss that said, "Hey, I need you to wire $80,000 to this." And I'm like, I walked down the hall, and it's like, where are we going to get $80,000?
Right. Well,
and then, you click the header, and it was a spoof, and
the problem is now is that, you talk about AI being good and being bad. One of the negative sides is that they can now put an email in and say, generate me a response that looks this way. So you're no longer seeing the ones where you can look and the English is broken or it doesn't make sense. So it looks and presents, and they of course are copying I had a conversation with a title agent today, and she said that the person wired based off a fraudulent email that warned in their subject line, "Do not ever wire. We will never send you wiring instructions via email." but people don't look at, we get numb to that stuff. And so I think just remembering that this is a really large deal, you are wiring a large amount of money, take that very seriously and take precaution.
And once it's gone, it's gone.
It is gone, and they're getting so good. I heard something the other day where people are starting to set up passwords, even between partners, because of the AI voice cloning. They can clone my voice, have me call my partners and say, can you do this? Now, depending on the relationship, that may not work, right? But there are some people that have had to do that because they've even had a Zoom with the person like we are doing. It's not the real person, and they wire the money. So they have to have a password that no one else would know to tell them.
Yeah. The fraudster, they just take all the fun out of everything.
Right.
Yeah. So a little bit more inside baseball. I mean, just in your industry, and I've done a lot of real estate deals, and had more than a few in the last 25 years or so get held up because some bank, maybe from 20 years ago, never filed their release.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I would like the legislature to address. So you just take my 2 cents, and I don't know, but they got their own lobby. I'm sure they don't want any more regulations on them. So
there are penalties for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We do see that too. And the problem becomes when that bank's been sold, or, they're out of
Exactly.
business. And then we can almost always find a way around it, but it's challenging.
I came across one last year where a lien from Nations Bank, which has of course now been rolled up into Bank of America, but 2 or 3 mergers ago.
Right.
But somehow, give credit to the title attorney. After 2 phone calls, they got it released, and we worked on time. It's like, well, that was worth a lot of money.
It's so true.
Yeah, that stuff shouldn't happen. And the property had changed hands 2 or 3 other times between now and then, and who's not catching those things? But anyway, that's another matter. So
I'm sure your listeners don't want to go deep in title today, but if you want,
probably not. But
you can always reach out.
Anyway, they will be impressed by how smart we both are. So so let's pivot a little bit. So you're a successful entrepreneur. You've got a good business. I always like to talk to my entrepreneurs about, what do you do with your investable cash flow? We're not asking for account numbers or dollar amounts, but what are your favorite asset classes? What do you invest in?
I like to invest in real estate. And I think that's because that's what comes across my desk. And so, I see it and I get excited about it. I think now I've moved, I started in residential, and I'm now moving into the commercial, industrial, multifamily classes. That's I'm just starting to look at industrial a little bit more. But I also invest a decent amount each month into the market, because I know that I need something to offset. I probably don't have, I'm just doing mostly the, like a mutual fund or something and I set it and forget it. I try to do it on a weekly investing basis and set it and forget it. But I also will say, I am not a person that I'm neither a person that I think spends for everything. I don't have a ton of clothes or have to have the expensive, part of everything. I'm not afraid to go and, shop a sale. But I also believe in, that I can't use it when I'm dead. My kids will be fine. And so there's part of me that really believes that part of my pay is it's in passion. So I can either forego doing something in the business that I know would make us the most profitable, because I've got a passion doing something else and I'm getting paid that way. Or I believe in taking the money that I have and fulfilling the dreams that you have and the things that you want to do, and really kind of keeping a pulse on the fact that we are not guaranteed one more moment. So I balance in
I
that
like
way.
I like that. So you're not a crypto person.
I have some crypto. I've never made I haven't made a ton of money on it. In fact, maybe I've lost money on it. I just leave it in there and it sits.
That's a good bet that we all lost everything this week, but
Oh yeah, I haven't even looked. I do not.
it actually closed up today, right before you and I started this. But what a wild week it is. It closed up on the
Yeah.
day. It hasn't closed up for the month or anything like that. So
Right.
and I
Yeah.
haven't looked at Bitcoin in weeks, but well, that's interesting, and also somewhat of a common answer I hear from a lot of our entrepreneurs that many of them will just say, "I just reinvest in the business. That's what I know."
Yeah.
And I hear you saying a bit of that, but you're also doing other things that you're passionate about with it. So,
Yeah. And I mean, we do things with business. I think lots of things that you can do with business. I'll see something that I think is really fun that I want to go do. And it's a perfect reason to make it a client event. And then I get to go do it. If I want to take my kids, they can go. If I don't, they don't. And clients can come, and it's like built-in friends.
yeah, good. All right, we're kind of coming down to the end here. This is the big question, Angie. If you were mentoring someone or somebody just wanted to follow in your footsteps, what one piece of advice would you give them?
I really like the Richard Branson quote that says something along the lines of, say yes more often. It's a lot more fun, or a hell of a lot more fun than saying no. I'm a big believer in saying yes and seeing where the path leads you. And I think that's true in business. And I think that's true in life. I know there's another camp that says no is a 2-letter word and say no, and keep your eye on, find what your goal is, filter everything through that lens and go straight for it. I'm not like that. I would be extremely bored doing that. So I really like sitting down with somebody that I don't even know why I'm sitting down with them, and coming out with something so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a perfect example, there was somebody at the Chamber of Commerce who does comms for the Chamber of Commerce here and for the National Chamber of Commerce. And I just felt like I should meet with him, and I didn't know why. I had no real reason to. And we sat down, and he suggested a place to get, that I had never been. That was a great experience to go have some coffee. And then we sat and we talked, and he was so lovely and so open in his thoughts and the way that he communicated, that it turned my whole day around. And I probably will have that memory for a long time, because what a wonderful human. And those things matter to me. That's a form of payment too. So say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say yes to new experiences, unless they're somehow illegal or immoral. So yeah, just say yes to everything. So
Yeah.
I love that, and I found that in myself getting older as well. I'm an accountant. I'm a bean counter through and through. And if I didn't see a purpose for meeting in someone else, I would try to not do it. But as I have transitioned into the role that I have now, I'm going to lots of conferences. I'm meeting people. I'm doing podcasts and meeting people, and it is very fulfilling. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm meeting people on podcasts, and like I said, I don't know why, and heck, I got one who's recruiting a new employee for me, and another picked up a securities attorney, and
You
it's like I
learn.
wasn't even looking, So,
Right. Well, you learn. I think that the entrepreneurs have this insatiable need for learning and knowledge. And I hear that in you, right? You're seeking, and that's That's what I think I'm doing. And I think that's what a true entrepreneur will ultimately always default to.
We're all lifelong learners,
That's right.
whether we admit it or not, but
That's
it's
right.
true.
Yeah.
Well, Angie, thank you so much for taking time today. This has been a really enlightening podcast. If anybody in our audience would want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn is the easiest way. I'm just Angie Lawless, Lawless. And yeah, I would happily connect and would love to learn about any listener that finds an interest.
Right. Well, we will take the link of that and we'll put that in the show notes for the audience, make it easy for you to reach out there and connect with Angie. And thank you again. I know, entrepreneurs, we don't have much time, but you've shared almost an hour with us today. So thank you very much.
Happy to, and thank you for giving back to the community this way. I think it's really great.
Thank you. And to our audience, thanks for watching this episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. Be sure to come back and look for the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.